Welcome to Dark Horse Matters, the show about people, their passions, and their pursuit toward happiness. I'm Bev Matayoshi, your host, and my passion is talking to people and uncovering what drives them and, makes them pursue their dreams in life. And if you're just tuning in, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell because you never know, you could be the next person that gets inspired by a story that you hear on the show. And, it just motivates you to take action and go after it. So today's guest is a very special person I just reconnected with recently when I was doing the video for my 20-year high school reunion. So a lot of people during that time, I wasn't, I just started reconnecting, over years. I haven't spoken to a lot of my high school people, for many years, but recently reconnected with her. And I just was so inspired by her story. Like, really, she's been through so much in her life. And I just see her as, a beacon of hope for a lot of women who's been through a lot in their life. And she is just a champion and has just come through her struggles in life. And she is just such a positive force and just a beacon of hope that you can come out of any type of traumatic events that you've experienced growing up, and you can just be healthy and happy. There's hope. So I'm just so blessed that I reconnected with her and that we are friends again. And I just hope that her story will really impact a lot of people out there. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Jessica Mokuahi.
Love the bells. Yay.
Hi, Jess. How are you?
Good. How are you, Bev?
I'm good. And, I just love your backdrop because it just shows your personality. You're such an ocean person, an outdoorsy person. I've always known you as someone who's very athletic and just, really in one with nature.
Oh, I can't hear you. Yeah, I can hear you now.
So, Jess, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? Like, I was thinking, like, growing up in Hawaii, both me and you, we're both from Kaneohe, and
Yes.
people when they hear that we're from Hawaii, they just think that it's just all paradise and rainbows, and you're just, every day is a luau, you know what I mean? But, like, so I just want to ask you, like, can you share with the audience, like, what was it like growing up in paradise for you?
Yes. So you're right. When, people always associate Hawaii with paradise, with luau's, perfect weather, um, perfection, really. For me, it was completely different. I had a very dysfunctional, traumatic, scary, you name it, kind of childhood. So just a little background on myself. My mom and dad, they never married. They were both drug addicts growing up. Um, uh, my mother didn't know it back then, but she was struggling with paranoid schizophrenia. So on top of the drug abuse, she was like undiagnosed at the time. So if I could set the stage for my life, it was instilled with fear, um, just dysfunctional. I can remember one time, I didn't know what I did wrong, but my mom just flipped out on me, severely, was beating me. I just remember being so afraid, and that time she was giving me a bath, and for some reason she just grabbed my neck and just put me under the water, and she was trying to kill me. She was trying to end my life. And my brother, who's 11 months older than me, he ran in and just pushed my mom from the back and said, "Mom, what are you doing?" And my mom like snapped out of her rage, you know, and my brother actually saved my life. So I just remember just being afraid all the time, um, walking on eggshells, just being afraid of everything. I was always worried about getting beaten for whatever the case may be. I saw strange men coming in and out of the house. It was just a very unstable situation, growing up with sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. It was uh, overwhelming, to say the least.
You know, I, I, with this bringing you on this show here, like there's kind of a goal that I want to achieve with you telling your story, because if what you're going to say, a lot of the stuff that you're going to say, talk about, which I really appreciate you being so vulnerable with the audience, because um, a lot of the things that you're going to talk about are not happy things, you know, like but it's
Right,
real. People go through, you're not the only one in the world that has experienced trauma at a young age. And
right,
I just want the audience to understand, you know, like some of the things that you're going to hear are not, you know, it's not all paradise and rainbows, you know, but it's important for people to know, you know, like what you've been through, because of everything that you've accomplished in the end, you know, like where you are now. It's just an amazing transformation that you have done, and it didn't happen overnight. It took a lifetime to achieve, and a lot of work and a lot of support from all the people around you that love you.
right.
So I just really appreciate you coming in and just an introduction story, you know, like after I say, what was it like growing up in Hawaii? You know, like that first story you just told is just like, wow, you know, just the fact that your brother saved your life, you know, like that is
Hmm.
just,
Yeah.
um, you know, children shouldn't go through that kind of, you know, that shouldn't be the memories that you have growing up, but it's real. So you know, like I just wanted to kind of bring back like the one of the memories I have of you, you know, in high school. Like
Yeah.
we met in high school. We weren't like in the same circle of friends, but I do
Right.
remember having you in one of my classes freshman year. I think it was freshman year. Um, and I just always remember you sitting in the back of the class. I think that you always used to sit next to Bronson Tom, and you know, you guys are the popular people. You know, the football players, and you know, and I was the nerd, you know, that sat in the front all the time. But
Yeah.
I always saw you as such a beautiful person. I always thought you were very stunning, and I always thought that you're so cool because you could surf so good, you know? Like surfing was something I always wanted to do, but we were
Hmm.
farm girls, you know, like what we did
Yeah.
during the summer was work in the fields. We didn't go to the
Me
beach.
too. Me too.
Oh, really? I didn't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that. But yeah, so when I just remember the memory I have of you in high school was just, you know, you're one of the popular girls. You had a very handsome boyfriend. I remember I used to just be mesmerized with how beautiful of a couple you guys were. But you know, just like, you know, in school, you know, what was that like growing up? Like, you know, your experience in high school must have been so different because of your home life. Can you kind of walk us down like what you experienced?
Yeah. So, yes. So, high school for me was an absolute blur. Looking back as a grown woman and then looking back at high school, the high school Jess, two different situations here because I was unknowingly living with childhood PTSD, like severely. So, learning for one thing was extremely difficult for me. Like, I had major people anxiety, I had trouble trusting people. I was so intimidated to just, if a teacher would call on me for anything, I mean, I would just be freaked out about that. But, I had low self esteem, trouble concentrating. I can remember all these, like, I don't even remember teachers' names from, if I could name one, I can't, because the pain that I was harboring in my heart and soul was just overwhelming, and I often drowned that all out with alcohol. Like I started drinking at 14 years old to like numb the pain. And I didn't realize, for one, I was born into a family with addictions, drug, alcohol, gambling, you name it. We have a bunch of addictions. So it wasn't even my fault. I'm born into this family. I love them, no problems there. But for me, coming out of the womb, I was always going to struggle with that. So not knowing that, and as a teenager having to deal with an addiction that was just going to be a part of my life was very hard to deal with. It got really out of control by the time I was a senior in high school. My social worker begged me to go to AA. I mean, nobody knew this. You could look at me and say, "Oh, she's so pretty," or "She's so cool," this and that and the other. But I was struggling bad with alcoholism. I could just remember drinking, blacking out, how many countless times, drinking cases of beers by myself. It was, and I just didn't know that the reason I was consuming so much alcohol is because I was suffering inside. Like the trauma was so bad. Um, and it was ruining my life. It
Right.
really, the one night that I got so drunk that I attempted suicide. I wasn't even in my right state of mind. And I did. I was a senior in high school, maybe halfway through the year, and I attempted suicide.
Said senior?
Senior
Senior
year. It
year.
was senior year. Yeah,
Wow.
probably nobody knew. Like it was shortly before the senior luau. That's the only thing I can remember because my adopted, I was homeless on top of that. I got kicked out of my house. I was living, my clothes was thrown out. My grandmother got so tired of my BS. It's like, "You're drinking too much. You're out of control." I disrespected her. Didn't even know, I was not in my right state of mind. And had she known I was suffering all these years, maybe I could have got the help back then. But instead, my clothes were all put in a trash bag, thrown out on the yard, and I was homeless senior year. Right after that, I
Wow.
was living from house to house. Like I lived at Delsey for a couple weeks. I lived with Sheree. I don't know if you remember her, for a couple weeks. No place to stay.
So this all happened senior year. And that
Girl,
was like
senior
a
year.
tipping point. Like, but I'm sure like what was the earliest memory of uh when your abuse started? Like do you have any memory of like how old you
Of
were
the sexual abuse,
or just
probably
any abuse?
any
Like
abuse. Oh yeah, that's toddler, probably 2 years or younger. I can remember it happening then, all the way to what, second grade, when I was removed from the home and placed in foster care. So from baby to, how old is second grade, 7 or 8 years old,
yeah.
I was at Ben Parker, and I was removed from the home and placed with Lili'u'o Kalani Trust. I haven't said it in so long, but I became property of the state, the queen.
During this time, like as a foster child, like were you hopping from family to family? Like what was that like living in the system?
Oh my gosh, the first foster home was amazing. I moved to Waimanalo. This foster family showed us so much love. We, I was never shown any affection. Never, like, I don't remember having a birthday party at Christmas or anything normal like that. This family really gave that gift to us of love, affection, something, a safe haven, safe home. We lived right down by the beach. So at this point in my life, I'm taken from my biological family, placed in a foster home in Waimanalo, right next to the beach. At that point, I knew, like, I was the happiest kid in the world, despite coming from hell on earth. My soul is awakened. I could go and walk to the beach, go boogie boarding, like play outside in the yard. Like I had the best time of my life, even though it was with a new family, but the ocean was just so special to me. And I knew it from that age, you
And
know.
this time that you spent with this family that actually showed you what a family is supposed to look like, how short-lived was that?
That was about 2 years because her husband got cancer, and it was such a tragic situation. And being 8 years old, you don't really understand that, but my soul was crushed when they said, "Oh, we have to go to a different family." My soul was crushed. I mean, I never knew what happiness looked like until I was there with this foster home. And my brother and I like wept in the car as our social worker drove us away. It was just like the social worker on Lilo and Stitch. He had a gray bug just like that.
Oh my gosh.
B-Dub drove us out of there. I was bawling in tears like I was at a funeral. Like I hurt so bad. And then that's when we moved back to Kaneohe, and then we went to Ahui Manu for 5th and 6th grade, I think it was. Yeah, to
And
another foster home family,
uh,
and they were a really nice family.
that's great to hear that you were able to experience foster care with decent people, though, because like
Right.
I hear horror stories, like when kids in the system go to all
Mm-hmm.
these and they end up running away because this, whatever
Right.
wherever they end up with is not a very stable place either, so I'm happy that you were able to experience that, and that actually that you were together with your brother still.
Yes.
That's
Yes, that was
amazing.
one of the requirements, that we had to be together and not separate. They had
That
to take both of us.
Yeah, that's great to hear that you guys, were able to do that. Can you and about if you're comfortable with talking about this,
Mhm,
if about the sexual abuse, like at what
mhm.
age did that start?
Same age, from probably from toddler or younger to 2nd grade. So that whole period, I
Wow.
I can remember. Yes, absolutely.
And was your parents like was your mom aware of what was going on?
No, nobody knew what was going on, because the person that was the abuser, I mean, he had me under control. I'm a kid. Like, all I knew was to shut my mouth, don't say anything, or you're going to get lickings. So I'm already traumatized from surviving death, from being drowned and abused from my mother. And then here have another abuser who's telling me, if you say something, you're going to get dirty lickings. So I'm just paralyzed in fear. I can't tell you how scared I was growing up. That feeling never left me, of high anxiety, high stress, high alert at a very young age. I was very stoic. If I could look at pictures of myself, and it was like no emotion. Very sad.
What and how did that like experience like impact your just relationships moving forward with men, like in general, like because of that? Because I mean, I can't even pretend to understand what that's like, like so like when you're building relationships as a young person, 12, 13 years old, and you start coming into your body and puberty and all that, it's already confusing enough during that time.
Right.
So
Right.
what was it like for you, like that transition?
That transition for me was a little rocky, because I was not shown a healthy relationship. I wasn't shown boundaries because I had none. So for me, I always try to control my environment to protect myself. That's speaking of somebody with severe trauma. So looking back at the baby Jess, the young Jess, I was very controlling. I was very angry. I had a hot temper. Um, it was not healthy. I mean, given I was abused, I felt like I was also dishing that kind of vibe out, which was not cool to the guys that I used to date. Not saying that I was a super monster all the time, but I was insecure, very insecure about any relationship that I was in. Again, very controlling. And when I would get drunk, I would get extremely violent and turn into this horrible person, like the Hulk, turn green, veins all out, popping out, ready to scrap. I mean, I was physically abusive. In turn, the relationship was abusive both ways. So if I'm throwing blows, the guy's throwing blows back at me. It was just like a normal thing, which is not normal. Domestic violence is not cool.
Right.
But again, given my background, all I knew is violence, dysfunction. That was my normal.
When you after high school, um, when you graduated from high school, like what was that transition like? Because everybody else is like
Oh,
going to college, like I know you joined the military. Like what inspired you to go that route? Like, and what made
oh my!
you make that
Uh,
decision?
After high school was a disaster, because I barely graduated, for one, because I was in a drunken state of mind. Got into a DUI accident, but actually, it was like a head-on kind of collision, kind of, because I was drunk. And my adoptive family just had enough of me and kicked me out. So once again, I was homeless. So a friend of mine invited me to stay with her, and I didn't know it then, but her cousin was a drug dealer. So I go and move into her apartment, and they offered me crystal meth. And of course, I just came out of a really messy relationship. I'm depressed. I don't know how to handle the breakup. So not only am I still battling alcoholism, I take one hit of crystal meth and I'm completely addicted. It's free drugs. I don't have to pay for a thing. For 7 or 8 months straight, I'm doing crystal meth every single day. I'm losing weight. I look like a zombie, look horrible. This was my life. The same thing I told myself as a kid, that I would never be like my mother. I was literally walking down the same path as my mom, like destruction, complete destruction. And I just knew, like, I told myself I wouldn't do this, and here I am, you know?
Right. And what inspired you to go to boot camp? I mean, like that is like, you go from being
Yeah,
out of control and you're going to an environment where you need to have ultimate control. It's like discipline, that's what they teach you
right.
there.
Yeah, there's one day I was coming down from a high and I was in the bathroom. I remember it straight to this day. I'm in the bathroom and I'm like, you know what? This is not a life for me. I'm thinking, I'm like, this is not what I want to do with my life. I'm gonna join the army. I'm gonna make something of myself because I can't do this anymore. And um I didn't know, I didn't have my faith back then. Like, I didn't know God, wasn't raised in the church or anything like that. Didn't have a relationship with God. Um, but I knew there was a spiritual higher power back then, because my great grandmother used to take me to church, and I knew to call and look up. So I looked up and said, if you can help me out, I mean, I can't do this. I can't do this life anymore. And like the next day, I just snapped out of it, and I called my grandma, my maternal grandmother, and asked her if I could move back home so I can, I told her I was going to join the army, and whatever means that it would take for me to join, I was going to make it happen. So I forced myself to be clean, get off the drugs, like stop all of it. And so I did. That's exactly what I did. I took the ASVAB and um, got myself clean and went straight to boot camp. They sent me straight to South Carolina.
And I remember, like, when we talked before, you mentioned that your whole time in boot camp, you were like detoxing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just got off of drugs and I'm like in basic training. It's insane. I That was also a blur. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was a blur. I don't know how. I mean, I even went up to for a soldier of the cycle award. So like the best top soldiers would go up for the top award. And I went up for that, and I was studying the manual to get ready to go before the board, and like simple questions, Bev, like I couldn't answer it. Like I couldn't. They thought I did so amazing, but they had no idea I was like detoxing from drugs and like the severe trauma that I had, and like I could barely like answer simple questions. Basic training was a breeze, but the studying part was really tough for me.
Yeah. But I feel like your physical capabilities and your abilities to your athletic abilities probably really helped you during that time.
Right. It
Wow.
did. I mean, I know that being an athlete is a blessing because it always, I mean, from the time I was a kid, whether it was track, cross country, surfing, paddling, that always balanced me out. Like I have so much like energy and so much, I almost had so much rage inside that if I didn't have that athletics or something to mellow me out, I would be fighting people all day long. Like I was a monster inside because I had so much inside that I was trying to deal with, and I didn't know how to deal with those things, emotions.
Right. So like uh I just feel like, you know, that has just been a blessing. Not, and
Yeah.
also just, you know, the way you found the military to help you.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
these things just, you know, it kind of worked out for you that way. But what a blessing that you had that kind of outlet, you know, and even till this day, it's just so amazing, you know, to see you just move forward. And a lot of it has to do with this energy that you put forth into your athletic abilities, and we're going to get more into that. But now let's walk through, like, when did you meet your husband, who is an amazing person? Like, how did you two meet? And you guys have known each other a really long time now. I mean, you guys have been together for a long time.
Yeah. So after basic training, I went to Korea for a year. And then I was stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado. And that's where I met my husband, Sean. Fort Carson is located in Colorado Springs, for those that don't know. And I was 20 at the time when we met. And I'm now 43. So we've been together for a very long time. Like it was like an instant attraction. I knew there was something different about him because he was like the patient, kind, funny, kind of mama's boy. And I was used to the roughnecks, like, come on, let's go drink, let's party. Like I was came from very unhealthy relationships. So having something different was like really refreshing, like really different, which is what I needed in my life.
Right. And
So
Sean, like, did he were you open with him during that time, like, about what you've been through as a child and
yes,
just growing
I
up?
was completely open and kind of shared my story and with him, and he knew about everything, but he just really didn't understand why I was so like punchy, you know? Like I would get drunk and just want to fight him, I mean, I would curse him out. I would say the most horrible things to him when I was be drunk. I'd want to fight people in my unit. Like it was very unhealthy. And for me to not be able to turn that off was really frustrating for myself because I always thought something was wrong with me. Why am I so angry? Why do I have such a rage inside? Why do I want to punch people in the throat? Like I'm thinking it, but I don't actually do it, but I'm thinking it, which is almost the same as doing the act. But I just didn't understand myself. But thankfully he was a really patient human being and really loved me for who I was. And he was very patient.
In throughout your marriage, like, have you ever tried to seek counseling at all? Like, you know, try to understand where all that rage was coming from. Like, because if you don't know that you have PTSD, like, how do you deal with that? You know?
Like exactly. Like I didn't know. And like we were married at age 21. Okay. So we were babies when we got married. And we got into this huge fight just maybe 6 months into no, 5 months into the marriage. My rage and out of control, like Hulk mentality, like it got the best of our relationship. And I actually got my husband arrested. He was sent to jail because of my explosive, uncontrollable actions. Like I put my hands on my husband, I was about to like choke him out. I wanted to like literally kill him, like not kill him, but I just wanted to like make him hurt, you know? And I didn't know why I reacted that way for this simple argument that escalated so badly. And, after that huge fight where he was arrested in front of all of our peers, it was super embarrassing. More so for him than me, because I looked like I was the victim. When in reality, he was the victim. He had been the victim for a while, and it was a lot for me to bear, to even process, because again, I didn't have like a healthy upbringing. I didn't know how to communicate. None of that was a normal thing for me. But after that huge event of our marriage that was so fresh and so new, that kind of propelled us to move away from that kind of lifestyle with the partying and the drinking. And we got involved in our local church. Sean wanted to share his story about you know, his time in jail and our experience with the domestic violence. And we just wanted to help people. Even though we were just so new, like we don't know what it is to be married. We're 21 years old, but I mean, that scared us so bad. Like we don't want any of that lifestyle. And so that was a turning point for both of our lives. And we haven't looked back since. We've been
That's
married for 22 years.
that's great. Like when you have that kind of dynamic and you've been through that, like the fact that he went to jail because of that, like the fact that you guys went through something like that. I mean, him going to jail because
Yes.
of you, like, I
Yeah.
mean, that's usually when marriages end, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like the fact that you guys got through that is just really amazing. And, the love that you guys have for each other and the commitment, throughout the years, and especially knowing, what you've been through. I mean, God bless him. And, for having patience with you and for you to actually put in the work to try to understand what was happening, But when did you actually seek the kind of help that really opened your eyes to what was happening in your mind and why you were behaving the way you were?
Okay. Yeah. So in 2014, we moved to Charleston, South Carolina. And then a few years later, well, not few years, but I think in 2015, 2016, I found out there was a canoe club here. So I got plugged in because I wanted to be, first of all, I was stoked that there was an actual canoe, and I haven't even set foot in a canoe in over 22 years. So I was like, yeah, sign me up. Like, where's this canoe? I want to paddle. So they introduced me to the team, and also got introduced to dragon boat paddling, which I haven't had at the time no idea what that was. So I joined Charleston Paddle Club, started dragon boat paddling and paddling on the outrigger canoe, the 6-man outrigger canoe. And I was like the happiest girl in the world. Like I felt like I was back at home and, going back to my first love of paddling and surfing. And I'm doing all these things that I did as a kid. And it brought me so much joy. And anyway, long story short, one of the coaches from the U.S. national dragon boat team did a clinic in Charleston, and he kind of messaged me one day and was like, I remember clear as day, it was like 2016 summertime. He was like, Jess, I think you should try out for the U.S. national dragon boat team. I'm like, what team? What is that? He's like, the U.S. team. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you should. And like, this coach just saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And it propelled me to just go for it. And I was like, if this coach says I can do it, I was like, yeah, I can do it. And
The
so,
US national team, like what is that? Like is that the team that goes to the Olympics? Like
so dragon boat paddling is not a official Olympic sport. So it's not the one where it's like the every 4 years you have the summer and winter Olympics,
right.
but it's the national team that competes at the world level. So it's the highest level for the dragon boat sport,
Okay.
until it becomes a official Olympic sport. So it's our world championships for
Wow.
dragon boating.
That is so cool. And dragon boating, I never even knew what that was until I moved to Los Angeles. Like one of my friends did that in Long Beach, and I just thought it was so cool, and it really is a team sport.
It's the
And
ultimate team sport.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it looks really hard. Like it does
It's
not look
aggressive.
easy.
I love it.
So like tell me about tell me about the when you tried out. Like tell me exactly what your experience was when you tried out.
so I'm I'm just so over the moon, like, yes, I'm gonna go try out and do my first time trial. And I flew to Philly, did my first time trial. So you have to paddle in the outrigger canoe, one man, and it's 750 meters, so it's about half a mile. And it's a time trial, and I didn't have a coach, didn't know what I was doing. Um, Clearly, because I had an average time. My technique was pretty good because the outrigger paddle was still there, the outrigger stroke was still there, but I didn't do that well. But I knew that that wasn't my best. So I reached out to a coach to help me perfect it. Because how was I supposed to do a time trial when I wasn't even coached to do one? Didn't have the skills to do it because I didn't have a coach. So that was a lesson for me to not just do life alone. Don't do things on your own. You need help from somebody. So a coach worked with me. I said, hey, show me how to do a time trial. I know I can do it. I know I can do it. Trust me. I can do this, right? So he worked with me, gave me some drills, and got me trained up. And 2 months later, I retested and I dropped my time by 22 seconds, which is completely unheard of. I mean, from a rookie, from somebody who hasn't paddled in over 20 years, and I dropped my time that significantly was like mind blowing. I had like the second fastest time of the day on the long course. And on the short course, I got the fastest time of the day
That is
and
so
just
cool.
putting the
Like,
work in. And immediately I went from like rookie or standby to like making, earning a seat on the US National Dragon Boat team.
that is just incredible, amazing. And it's so important for people to know that, like, if you want something, you getting a coach is like essential. You cannot, expect yourself to just, if you want to results faster, like
Yeah.
getting a coach. Sorry.
I love him. Lisa, I love
I
him.
know, but I know I'm just afraid she's gonna pull the curtain down right on my
Yeah.
head. But so getting a coach is just essential if you want results quickly. And I just like that you went ahead and you saw the value in that. And can you tell me, like, during this time when you have a pursuit and a purpose that you're working towards, like, I'm sure that really just made you happy and it was something that you could focus on. But what was your PTSD like during this time? Did you ever struggle with that still?
Well, at that time, so after China, that was about a year. It was 2017. I got back from China, and you come back from a super high, like high level, high energy from competing and meeting people from all over the world and sharing the world stage with many amazing athletes. And then you come back home and I get out of a rhythm. I experienced a little bit of depression because, you spent like half a year training and critiquing yourself, and you have this set regimen. I do this thing every single day. And all of a sudden, all that just stops. I started retreating and I wasn't happy. I almost went to a dark space in my head, like, and I didn't quite understand what was happening. So my husband, asked if we could seek marriage counseling, because for me, like, I would just shut down and not talk.
Hmm.
That was just me. I would block everybody out. Nobody could come into my circle. Nobody could come in. I won't let anybody in, probably just my husband and kids. Nobody else is allowed to be in the castle, so to speak, quote unquote. So we went to marriage counseling, and I began sharing some of the things and struggles, and immediately our counselor just noticed a few things, and he, kind of kept quiet. And um, this is over a period of weeks now, weeks and months. And one time he just said, "Hey, Jess, I think that you should seek professional help." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I don't speak like womenese." He said that, like, he doesn't speak like women, like how women speak in terms of just relating in that matter. And I said, okay. Well, so he sent me to another female counselor, right? And so this female counselor was just listening to my story, and she kind of sat back and said, "Why have you gotten professional help, like a psychiatrist?" And I'm like, "No." She's like, "Why? You need to heal the little Jess." So when she said that in that context, my brain could understand where she was going. And I was like, oh, I was like, but I don't have any hatred against my family. Like, I don't hate anybody. Like, I forgot about the past. She's like, no, Jess, you need to heal the little Jess inside of you. And right then and there, I walked out of the office, called the person that they recommended, which is a psychiatrist that deals specifically with sexual abuse, trauma, PTSD, childhood PTSD, anxiety, depression, all of that. I had all of it. So I dialed that number and like broke down in tears because I knew I needed to go to the pain, which I was running away from the pain all my life. All my life I ran from it. And this time I knew I needed to go toward the pain to be able to feel like some kind of healing, some kind
Right.
of like, I just knew like my soul was in chains, and it was really, really scary for me to do, to like run to the pain, because a lot of times people don't want to feel pain. They just want to cover it up. Like, you get a sore, you just want to put the Band-Aid over it, put Neosporin and move on. But like I had to rip it all off. I had to, like, my soul was calloused over the years of just ignoring the pain and suffering. Like it was bad, and I spent 8 months in therapy, going twice a week. And it was the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. Like to have to go back and talk about all those things and process and try to understand. But I knew that I needed to do that. And at that point in my life, I was 39 years old, and I had to do it because I wanted to be free. I wanted to be free from that childhood trauma and the things that were probably haunting me and causing me, nightmares and who knows what. Like, who knows what goes on in your subconscious when you're asleep. Like those things they don't leave you. You got to deal with those demons, or they will run your life.
Right.
Bottom line.
Run your life and then ultimately take your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't, because you're bound. You can't live to your potential until you deal with that pain.
Right.
And that's what I did. And at age 40, I can tell you right now, that last therapy session, I had to, like, the interesting thing is like the sexual abuse, the trauma, the surviving death, the paranoid schizophrenic mom, scary face, all that kind of things, like, drug abuse, like, to me, that was nothing. But to talk about what I did to my husband, the man that I loved so much, the pain that I was harboring, and the guilt and shame of him going to jail, losing his his right to bear arms, that was the hardest thing. Like I cried, like from my depth of my soul. Like I cried so hard that day, like having to talk about how bad I hurt him and the guilt that I was harboring.
Mm-hmm.
But once I released all of it, like my eyes, like the scales were just like, it was clear. Like I didn't have like the weight. Like if I could describe how I was feeling all the years of life, it was like a raging stormy sea in my soul where I couldn't trust men. I don't like talking to men. I had trouble even at work. If a male was like over my head, like I would just like tense up and freak out. But I knew that after my therapy session that all that was lifted, because I've dealt with the pain, I've healed from the pain, I have released it, and ultimately was free. I don't walk around tense, on high alert, ready to defend, ready to, like, I was literally like an MMA fighter all the time inside, ready to, like, oh my God, is somebody going to attack me? Is somebody going to hurt me? Is somebody going to hurt my kids? Like, it's very unhealthy. And if I could describe how I feel now, 2 years later after therapy, it's like a slack tide. Like there's not a single wave in the ocean. It's just ever flowing smoothly. That's how my soul feels inside right now. Like I'm going with the waves, whereas before I was drowning. I was drowning in these waves, and they were just crashing over me, and I could barely get to the surface all the time. It was very I can't even, like, exhausting.
Right.
And thank God I have this crazy strength, because I just don't know how. My therapist was like, I don't know how you lived all these years with all that things that you've been through. I don't know how you did it. I was like, thank God for my desire to get outside and do, exercise and clear my head, because it was a healthy means for me.
Right. I'm so happy for you that you achieved this level of clarity and healing, because a lot of people do not come out of it, like that everything that you've been through, like it's amazing that you're even still alive, you know?
Oh, 100%. I
Um,
could have been, the way my genetics are, I would still be in Hawaii, probably homeless or in a mental institute where my mother is. Same exact situation. I would have been just like that. Not saying it's a bad thing. And I feel for our community that is that way. I really do, because I lived it. I know it. But I just hope to be that light for those who might think it's too late to ever get help, or maybe they don't even realize that the pain and suffering is literally weighing them down and stopping them to their best potential. I mean, everybody has that opportunity to get healing and to have freedom. It's out there for everyone, and I just hope that my story can just motivate others to do the same, even though it will hurt. But I promise you, in the end, it's going to be worth it.
yes. And you really are just an example of a champion who came out of it, like um, the fact that you went through all that therapy and you do not even need to take meds for all the trauma that you experienced. A lot of times people cannot even come out of that without being medicated, and
Right.
you're able to come out healthy with the biology in your body, and your mind completely free of drugs. I mean, that is just unbelievable to me. Like,
Right.
just mind blowing. And I'm so
Well,
happy for you.
it's like when you have the will and desire to be better, because you know that you can be, to just cut it off like that, it's very difficult, Bev. I mean, people look at me and say, how did you get off of crystal meth and alcohol? Like, how, like, you just stop? Like, how is that even possible? Sometimes I can't explain it, but the way my mind works, if I put my mind to a goal, it's gonna happen no matter what. So I told myself, mind, you know what? You're done with this crystal meth. You're done with this alcoholism. Like, I've been sober since 21, age 21. I haven't touched it. Every now and then, like in my 30s, I'll have like a glass of wine but it's just not a thing for me. I don't
Good for
enjoy it.
you. Good
Like,
for you.
I don't crave it. So
And through your therapy, like uh prescription medication for like the psychiatrics and all of that, like were you able to get through all of that without taking that kind of medication?
I never took any medications in my life,
Any type
and
of
not even through,
anti-anxieties?
no, because, you know, I was oblivious to the fact that I had anxiety, PTSD, depression, all that. Was completely oblivious. So I had, my body just adapted to that kind of life, like living on high alert. That's just the way I lived my life. And at times it was unhealthy, but that's the only way that I knew how to do it until my eyes was open. Then I was like, oh, but I didn't need medication to deal with the anxiety, depression, while I was going to therapy. That wasn't recommended or needed. For some reason, that's what my therapist said. So
Yeah.
she just said, never stop paddling. That's what my therapist told me.
That is your therapy.
Yeah, she did. She said, it's a natural medicine. You have that gift.
Wow. That is just so incredible. Jess, I'm so happy and thankful that you came on the show today to share your story. I know it's going to inspire a lot of people, and just, give hope to those who are suffering from PTSD,
Yeah.
childhood trauma, sexual abuse, that there is help out there, and, you just have to ask for it. And if you want to heal, it is possible. You can't feel hopeless and think that that's just the way your life is, because
Right.
that doesn't have to be that way. You have to take control of what your happiness is. And
Right.
you're like the living proof of that, Jessica. Like living
Yes.
proof. And I just, I'm so happy that you came on today to share your story, because I'm struggling to not cry, just hearing you talk about it and how far you've come, and you're a true champion, and you're super inspiring. And I'm so glad we reconnected, and you're not far away from me. I'm totally going to come visit you, and we're going to go surfing
Yes, you
together.
have to.
I haven't surfed in forever, and I'm totally out of shape, so I got to work out and prep my way toward meeting you again, because you're gonna like whoop me, and it's gonna be shameful.
Oh
Um,
man.
well, thank you so much, Jess, for coming on the show. I really appreciate you, and I just I hope that we can be friends for a long time now, because your stories just touches me so much.
Oh my gosh, yes. To be able to survive, everybody, every human is a survivor. We were made to survive and overcome any obstacle. And that's like that Hawaiian saying, "Ho'omau" is about perseverance. And through paddling and seeking help and freedom, I've realized that, like to be able to persevere through those hard times. I'm telling you that, to see, you might not see the goal then. You might be thinking like, this is the worst ever. Like, why is my life this way? But if you just keep holding on, keep persevering, I'm telling you, it's going to get better on the other side. It's like to have that freedom is a gift that's above all. The joy and peace that you can receive, it's for everybody. So I just want to share that aloha and that hope to anybody out there who has struggled with sexual abuse, childhood trauma, drug and alcohol abuse, all of the above. I'm living example that you can be healed.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for visiting us and sharing, this time on Dark Horse Matters. This is the place where, we can talk about this, how
Yes.
important it is to pursue something that you're passionate about, because it could heal you from the inside out. It really, really is the pathway toward happiness. So with that
Yes.
being said, just, take care. God bless. And
Thank you.
until next time, Jessica, be passionate.
Yes. Thank you, Bev. It was awesome. Thank you so much.